What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and if you're looking at your fantasy football team right now and you're 1-1 or you're 2-0 and you just don't like the vibe of the locker room, or you're 0-2 and you're down bad and everything has gone wrong for you this season and you're looking to make a change, this is the video for you, because today I am going to talk through my 6 must-buy trade targets for week 3 of the fantasy football season. Some of these guys are buy lows, some of them are buy highs, some of them are buys for 2-0 teams, some of them are buys for 0-2 teams. We cover the entire spectrum of the fantasy football landscape in this video. As always, if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. And the first player that we are buying is Ladd McConkey. Now, I will say, how I kind of come about making this video every week is I set my own rest of season rankings over on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. You get my top 150 rest of season rankings. I go through, I think, 55 running backs, 65 wide receivers, 20 or so quarterbacks and tight ends, and I give you a lens of how I'm viewing each player over the course of the next 14 to 15 weeks in this fantasy football season. And then I look around at the consensus rest of season rankings and I figure out who I am higher on than most right now. And I really can't believe the sentiment on Ladd McConkey. I've even gotten comments in my videos of, Ron, I drafted Ladd McConkey in the second round. It's all over. He's a surefire bust. And obviously, that is the name of the game. Everybody is going to overreact about their team through 2 weeks. But the overreaction on Ladd McConkey is crazy, because I actually think that, of course, the box score hasn't been great. You don't love to see Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston balling out while Ladd McConkey's putting up, 12, 13 PPR fantasy point type of performances. But this is maybe the best environment you could have asked for. Right now, the Chargers are leading the entire league. This is via Establish the Run's pass rate over expectation chart, which is just on a given play. There are certain plays, right? Third and long is a passing down. First and 10 is kind of balanced. And it charts essentially what your pass rate is expected to be based on down and distance and game situation, and then it finds out how much you are passing over that expectation. And through 2 weeks, no one is touching the Chargers. And Justin Herbert is also balling out of his mind. So if you told me preseason, hey, Ladd McConkey, you are going to get the highest pass rate over expectation from Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert through 2 games is going to throw 5 touchdown passes, no interceptions, I would have been drafting Ladd McConkey at the 1-2 turn if you had told me that. Because, again, remember, this is Greg Roman. They just drafted Amari Hampton in the first round. And this is supposed to be Jim Harbaugh smash mouth football that he had at Michigan with J.J. McCarthy as a run-first football team. And that has not been the case. Now, of course, Ladd McConkey hasn't benefited directly from this just yet, right? He gives you 13.4 PPR points in week 1, 9.8 this past week, and it's frustrating. But the environment's so good, and I still believe in the talent of the player enough that I'm buying. Like, I'm all the way in buying at this point. Over a 17-game sample, there's just no way that he gets outproduced by Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston. We know last year this guy's an absolute stud. Everything we look at in the rookie receiver report, he crushed last year in terms of first downs per outrun, yards per outrun, targets per outrun. He is efficient. He gets open. And we have this data point as well from Jacob Gibbs showing that this is probably the cheapest Ladd McConkey will be, and I agree. Last year, he went bananas with a 22.8% target share. This year, he's at 23% target share. He should be fine. Yes, did we have aspirations for 27+% target share? Sure, but even if he maintains the same volume as last year, a 23% target share in the highest pass rate over expectation offense versus last year where it was more run-heavy is a very big deal. So, yes, he's getting the same percentage of the pie, but the pie has grown and it's actually become better because Herbert has almost taken a new step forward this season. So I'm very much in on Ladd McConkey, especially given the fact that people seem to be panicking very hard on Ladd. Now, how we do these videos is so that I'm not just saying, hey, go out there and buy Ladd McConkey, you figure out the rest. We are going to check out real trades that have happened over on Fantasy Calc. This is fantasycalc.com/database. This is their trade database. In redraft leagues, we go 1 quarterback, we go 3 assets maximum, meaning 1-for-1s or 2-for-1 type of trades. We'll go 10 to 14 teamer and a half or full PPR, and we'll see what Ladd McConkey's out there for. I will say I don't check these before the video. Oh man, I gotta refresh. I don't check these before the video. This is all candid. I don't know. You guys know me. I'm constantly experimenting with these in-season videos. Let me know if there's a better idea here in terms of how to do this, but I assume, right, this is fantasy football rankings and trades generated from like real fantasy football leagues. I think they go across Sleeper, Yahoo, all of that, and they pull these out. Now, of course, there's going to be some crazy lopsided deals here. Wow, Saquon for Ladd and Devon Achane. Wow. I don't think I can get there. Man, I would actually prefer the Ladd side of that. I don't think Saquon's a sell, so let's just keep rolling here. And we try and pick out a few real-life traits that have happened. Of course, Emeka Egbuka for Ladd McConkey. I'd even add an extra little plus. I like Emeka Egbuka, but if you can upgrade to a real difference maker like Ladd, I would do it. Or actually, no. I wouldn't add a lot to Egbuka. It'd be like a waiver fodder type piece. Sutton and Mason, that's very easily Ladd McConkey for me. Ridley Dobbins, easily Ladd McConkey. Wow, I love Flowers and Egbuka, so I'm gonna chill on both of those. But like Diggs and Montgomery, that's easy. Debo and J.K. Dobbins for Ladd McConkey, that's easy for me as well. Jacoby Myers and Jalen Hurts. I will say I do prefer Ladd McConkey over A.J. Brown rest of season, so if that's on the table, I absolutely would. And then we'll find one more here. T. Higgins and Devontae Smith for Ladd McConkey. I would do that as well. Now, our next trade target here in this video is going to be Breece Hall. I think he's actually the perfect buy low candidate right now. The top two we're talking through are honestly buy lows. A lot of these will be buy lows. And with Breece Hall, he's perfect because he had an amazing week 1, and then all of that comes crashing down in week 2 when the Jets get steamrolled by the Buffalo Bills. They lose by what felt like $1 billion. Justin Fields gets hurt, and you go from, okay, Breece Hall is the man, 19 carries, 107 rushing yards, 2 catches, 38 yards, just super explosive, super efficient, and then that all comes crashing down with a 5.8 point performance. But here's why I am buying Breece Hall this week is because the usage was good. We can see here, like, just kind of across the board of his biggest issue coming out of week 1 was he looks amazing, he's efficient, but he's splitting snaps and touches with Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis more than we would prefer. Now, the hope is, even before I read these stats, is that his talent, his efficiency would win out, and by midseason, he kind of pushes Isaiah Davis to the side. Because really the biggest issue for Breece Hall right now, and this role still isn't Breece Hall's yet, is that Isaiah Davis is out there in the 2-minute drill. Now, we absolutely love to see them getting killed by the Bills because it's infuriating as a Jets fan. We saw the same thing with Breece and Michael Carter in, I want to say, 2023, I think it was, where Michael Carter is the 2-minute drill back, and then eventually they found out, oh, well, Breece is actually much better here, and he should be out there in the 2-minute drill, and they cut Michael Carter. These coaches have this obsession of, like, I have 3 running backs, and they all need their roles, and this and that. And it's just like, when the Jets are rolling out, this is a whole other Jets fan rant, but when the Jets are rolling out Josh Reynolds and Tyler Johnson and Arian Smith, there is no reason for Isaiah Davis to be in the backfield during 2-minute drill hurry-up situations when Breece Hall is your second best receiving weapon. So in obvious passing down situations, him being on the bench is nonsense. For as much as I've loved Tanner Engstrand and his play calling in week 1, that is insane, and I do think that changes over time. But even if it doesn't, we still saw positive upticks in his usage. We see here, Breece Hall played 30 offensive snaps to Braylon Allen's 9 in week 2. That was 37 versus 20 in week 1. That's a massive change. He also had 13 opportunities to Braylon Allen's 3 and Isaiah Davis's 3. That's great. And then we have here with Ryan Heath, his usage in backfield shares were better than in week 1. He goes from 70% to 83% of the backfield carries, 9.1% to 13.6% of the target. So his role is growing, and I think, like, you can't get punched in the mouth like that, completely embarrassed. Your offense no-shows this game. Things are going to change. Breece Hall is going to be made a focal point, and I think that is very exciting. For me, I have him as a top 15 running back rest of season, and if you can buy him as an RB2, I would. Now, I will say as well, I think part of the stink on the Jets is, oh, well, now Justin Fields goes down. Was he electric in week 1? Sure. But is he still Justin Fields? Yeah. And then also, like, Tyrod Taylor has been quietly one of the better backups in the league that hasn't really been called upon in New York, if that makes sense. This is from Harrison Glazer. This is a Jets beat reporter. Of course, as a Jets fan, I follow all these guys. Since being with the Jets, Tyrod Taylor has 4 touchdown series and 5 opportunities for an 80% drive rate. That, in a limited sample size, is unofficially the best by any NFL quarterback with at least 5 career drives from 19. I mean, it's a very small sample, but he has not been, like, atrocious. When he comes in, there's usually first downs and scoring, and Tyrod Taylor looks pretty good. His stat line in those games, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, 6 carries. So he still also gives you that rushing element that is going to help Breece Hall get lighter boxes. And, well, not lighter boxes, but more of the box will be caring about what Tyrod Taylor does than, if it was like Joe Flacco or something. All right, now let's see what Breece Hall is going for out on the trade market right now. Wow, Brian Thomas for Harold Fannin and Breece Hall. Wow. I don't love selling low on Brian Thomas, but I actually think that if you needed running back and tight end help, I actually don't hate that at all. This is much more up my alley. Like, if I can do Hubbard and a small piece for Breece, I would. What else sticks out here? Devontae for Breece, Travis Hunter. I would. Yeah, I would do that pretty easily, actually, now that I'm looking at it. Let's see. Does anything else stick out here? James Conner and ETN for Breece. I don't hate that, but I think you could maybe get better with these two. Like, that's not a very clear upgrade, I don't think. Pickens for Breece Hall, obviously Breece. Trey Benson and Pickens for Breece Hall, obviously Breece. If I could turn Javonte, like, even if you want to take out Jawan here, if I could turn Javonte into Breece, even if I have to add like Jawan Johnson and Javonte to for Breece, I would. And then we can find one more. I think Pickens and Charbonnet is actually not crazy far off. If anybody out there is still a Charbonnet believer, and we'll find one more. Hampton and a piece for Breece Hall. I actually probably would. If you wanted to sell low on Amari and Hampton here, that's actually not terrible. Josh Jacobs for Breece Hall and Mike Evans. I don't hate that either, especially in a 12-team start 8, which is what, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. Yeah, I would do that as well. But all right, let's move on to our next trade target here. Number 3, Trevion Henderson. As we talk about potentially selling low on a guy like Amari and Hampton, for a trade example, we have Trevion Henderson. And I have felt the wrath in my comments. People are upset. And here's what I'll say. When you draft rookies, we talk about it the entire offseason. We draft them for what they do down the stretch. Now, of course, when we draft them inside the top 3 to 4 rounds, we need them to actually do more than they've done over the first 2 weeks. But my overall sentiment here is not that they're all going to be okay. 1 or 2 of these guys are going to bust in a pretty horrific way, and it's going to suck. But 1 or 2 of these guys, and I say these guys, I'm talking about your Genty, Hampton, Henderson, Judkins, Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey. I think probably 1 or 2 of those guys busts in a pretty horrific way, and I think 1 or 2 of those guys probably really turns things around, because rookies are unpredictable and they have massive upside. Now, this isn't to say Trevion Henderson is not a lock to join these guys on this list. What I was doing here is, this is gross cherry picking, but what I'm trying to illustrate is how rookies can start very slow and still turn things around in a very massive way. You can go down the list here. Ezekiel Elliott in his first 2 weeks averaged 13.5 points per game as a rookie. Then week 3 on, he was at 23 points per game. Clinton Portis, 2.3 to 22.3. Kamara, 8.1 to 21.3. Maurice Jones-Drew, 1.9 to 19.6. You can go down the list. Even if you want to sort of, these are all guys who had 17 plus points per game from weeks 3 on. You could even go down to like 14 plus, where a guy like Miles Sanders. So I would still leave the light on for these guys. It's only 2 weeks. I wouldn't freak out. And just to illustrate how fast things can change, this is Devon Achan's rookie year. He goes from a inactive to week 2. He plays 10% of the snaps. He gets 1 carry for 5 yards. And then in that game against Denver, he gets 18 carries, 203 yards, 4 catches, 30 yards, 2 touchdowns, just out of nowhere. And we saw it this past week with Cam Scatterbo, where in real time you see the backfield takeover. One of these weeks, I have to believe it's going to happen for Trevion Henderson. A similar thing happened for Jahmyr Gibbs. It was very frustrating early on, and then they chip away, and eventually they break out. I think that if you can buy Trevion Henderson for cheaper, I would. This is a Patriots team that's actually kind of balling out with Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator. And here's the tricky part. They're 8th in pass efficiency in terms of EPA per play. They're 29th in rush efficiency. They need efficiency. They need explosion in the run game. That's what Trevion Henderson can offer them. It sucks that his snap share actually kind of fell down a little bit this week because he had some missed block assignments. He had some holding calls. Not great. But also he's going to have his name called more and more as the season goes on. It's a small setback that I think eventually he can snap out of and be a huge difference maker from fantasy, the same way that I thought in August. So if you can buy for a depressed price, I absolutely would. Now, if we look over at the trade database, what is Trevion Henderson going for on the market? I'm hoping you can get him for cheap. Man, I don't know why I have to keep doing this, but I have to keep refreshing on the database here. Of course, league size 10 to 14, half and full PPR. What's Henderson going for? Let's see. James Conner for Henderson, yes, easily. I actually have Amari Hampton and Henderson back-to-back. If you could do Hampton for Henderson plus, I would. And I've gotten this question too, like, who are you most concerned about? I'd say in terms of my panic meter, it's probably Hampton, Harvey, Genty, Henderson. And then I think Judkins didn't draft high enough to really care, and neither with Caleb Johnson. But that's probably where I'm at, with Hampton being the one I'm most concerned about, just because he hasn't looked good when he's on the field. What else? We have Hubbard for Henderson and Connor. Not crazy about that. Keon Coleman and Cam Scatterbo for Henderson. Man, that's close. I probably would, but this is actually, like, I love Scatterbo as well. Like, I'm not really crazy about selling on Scatterbo. So actually, I'm going to take that back. Don't make that trade. Would I do Warren for Henderson? I would. Dobbins for Henderson? I would. Javonte for Henderson? I would. Keon Coleman for Henderson? Yes. Waddle and a piece for Henderson? Yes. Again, if I could get into the Amari and Hampton for Henderson in a piece business, I would love that. Obviously, Hollywood for Henderson. Javonte for Henderson? Yes. And we'll try and find one more. Keenan Allen for Henderson. Like, can you do Keenan Allen in a small piece for Henderson? I would do that as well. This Chase Brown for Drake London and Henderson. I don't know that that's on the table, but I would be doing that as well. I also think Pickens is probably the perfect breaking point for me of, like, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. If I didn't need that depth and I needed running back upside, I would love a move like that as well. Then we can talk about Tony Pollard as just kind of another buy low here, where he's been bad through 2 weeks, but he's been playing against the Broncos. He played against the Rams this past week, which is two really, really strong defenses. He hasn't given you anything really in terms of his production here. I'm pulling up on Sleeper. He hasn't even hit 10-plus PPR points yet. It's a bad offense, but I think Cam Ward has kind of shown some flashes. I think they're going to get some better matchups here. They play the Colts this week, the 6th worst rush efficiency defense by EPA per play, which is a massive, massive boost from the Rams and the Broncos the last 2 weeks. And he's still being used as a bell cow. Now, the issue is that Tyjae Spears is going to come back eventually, but 89.1% of the snaps is really, really solid. And if you maybe just lost Aaron Jones, you're just looking for running back points, I think Tony Pollard is actually a decent buy low that I would just have. There's like a billion of these guys in this tier of, like, J.K. Dobbins, Javonte Williams. I put Pollard in there. I put DeAndre Swift in there. I put Jalen Warren in there. I don't think I'm really missing any names, but you get what I'm saying. Like, Jordan Mason's now in there. And if you just want to buy somebody in that tier for cheap, I think that Tony Pollard makes a lot of sense. Now, in terms of what he's going for on the market, there's a part of me that thinks that he has, like, a little bit of name value, but I am very curious to see what people are paying for Pollard at this point in time. Keenan Allen for Tony Pollard, easily, yes. Bill, damn. Would I trade Bill for Pollard? No deal. If I was in a pickle here, if you're 0-2 and you have Rashee Rice rotting on the bench and you want to cash in on Rashee Rice for, like, Tony Pollard in a small piece, I think that that's justifiable. Ridley for Pollard all day. If I needed running back help, Jameson Williams for Pollard I think is fine. Again, Keenan Allen for Pollard, yes. You're not going to get Quentin Johnson, but Quentin Johnson and, like, a depth running back for Pollard, yes. And then we'll find one more. Pacheco and a piece for Pollard, yes. Juwan Jennings or Matthew Golden for Pollard. I would do either pretty easily. And then we can look at one more. Tyreek for Pollard and Pittman. Wow. In a start 9, I think I actually would. In a start 9 where this guy has 2 wide receivers, 2 flexes, and a super flex, I think I would do something among those lines. Now, moving on to our 5th trade target in this video. This one, and I will say, we're going to keep it brief on Chris Olave. I will say, now that I'm sort of reading through all of these, they honestly are all buy lows. I got yelled at last week because they weren't all buy lows. This is actually 6 genuine buy lows. But Chris Olave is, like, he's the poster boy this week. Everybody's talking about him as a buy low. You're not going to get one over on anybody when it comes to Chris Olave, but if you can, he's the most obvious buy low in the NFL right now. 20.3 expected points per game. So based on his targets, his ADOT, his red zone usage, he should be at 20.3 points per game. Of course, it doesn't take into account that Spencer Rattler's his quarterback, but also he should be more in like the 15 points per game, not 11.9. He's had 35% or better target share in both games so far. He's been absolutely fed, and I think it's only a matter of time until he gets a true spike game here. 13 targets in week 1, 10 targets in week 2. That's as good as you could ask for from a wide receiver in your wide receiver 3 flex spot at this point in time. Kellen Moore is also running a fun offense that's top 10 in neutral pace through the first 2 weeks. You're going to get a lot of play volume. You're getting a lot of targets from Olave. So I think it's a good opportunity to kick the tires and see what you can get. But again, like everybody and their brother is saying, hey, go trade for Chris Olave. Everyone's just sorting on their expected points and just sort of seeing, okay, well, Olave should be scoring a lot more points than he is. Let's see. Is anybody like truly actually buying low on Chris Olave, or is this just sort of group think here? McLaurin for Olave in a piece. I actually would. I'm not crazy about McLaurin. I would prefer Olave over Pearsall straight up, but it's so close that I don't think it matters. Would I do Chubb for Olave? Easily. Would I do Harold Fanon for Olave? Yes. Kyron for RJ Harvey and Olave? Wow. That's actually pretty close. That's actually pretty close. I get yelled at for like doing too many lopsided trades. This is one where they have Kyron winning by a lot. I'd maybe see if I could get more for Kyron, but if that's like the best offer on the table, I think I would. I think I would be into that. Kincaid for Olave easily. Garrett Wilson for Cortland Sutton and Olave, yes. I would have Sutton in the same tier as Wilson, and then you get an extra Olave piece on top. What else? Pitts for Olave, yeah. Like if you have like an extra tight end that you can turn into Olave, why not go do it? And then we'll find one more here that makes sense to me. I would do Calvin Ridley for Olave. If I wasn't using Juwan Johnson, I would do him for Olave. And I think that that's good enough here. And then our last trade target, just another one from last week. Hold the faith on Drake London. I'm still buying. It was a down week due to injury. He came into the week on the injury report with the shoulder. I think that he clearly wasn't right. We saw here from J.J. Zacharyson. He saw 4 targets and a 19% target share. That was his lowest target total in 4 games prior with Michael Penix, never going below 8 targets. So I think it's very clear that he was just using a decoy role in this game. He's off the injury report, as you can see on the bottom. And on a per route basis, he is wide receiver 6 in expected fantasy points per route run. So on a per route basis, he's still commanding volume. He's doing all right. His expected points per game right now is like 16.3. Instead, he's at like about 10. That should reverse. Michael Penix has looked good in his 2 starts this season. So I'm buying low on Drake London as a back-end wide receiver 2. What he's going for on the trade market here, let's see. I imagine people are actually pretty spooked on London, dude. It's crazy. I think it's just every year, but people love to freak out. Like, it's only been 2 weeks. People think the sky is falling. Everything that's happened so far, like, this player, like, Drake London was a massive bust. Ladd McConkey, massive bust. A.J. Brown, massive bust. And it's like, I don't know. Maybe one of those guys will be a massive bust, but let's wait, 10-plus games and kind of see how this thing shakes out. If I could do Tyreek Hill in a piece for Drake London, I would. I would do Kyron for Drake London straight up. Wow, I love Roma Odunze. I hate when you guys make me do this, but I would add a piece to Odunze to get to Drake London if I could. Nico Collins or Drake London. That one's too close to even make that deal, to be honest. I love Igbuka, but if he can get turned into London, you have to press accept on that trade. Hampton for RJ Harvey in London, yes. Hampton for London straight up, I would do. I don't know that that's even on the table, though. I think it would have to be Hampton and a wide receiver for London, which I would do. Scotty McLaurin for London, easily. Igbuka, James Conner for London. Yes. God, I hate saying yes to these Igbuka trades. I refuse to put Igbuka on any of my sell high videos because I'm just riding that ship till the wheels fall off. But, man, he's definitely hot in these streets right now. Kyron for Drake London, easily. Swift and Hubbard for Drake London. Yes, please. Now, that is going to conclude our Week 3 trade target video. I think tomorrow morning you should expect a sell video. Some of them are going to be sell high, some of them not. But just to give you guys some ideas, just get the ideas flowing here. I'm not saying that you can just go to your local league and acquire Olave for the cheap, but those are 6 targets where I talk you through a bunch of ideas of how to go about acquiring them. I think that they are all probably a little bit mispriced right now across the industry in rest of season rankings. And again, if you want to look at my rest of season rankings for your own trades, you can find those over on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. My rest of season rankings are there. Tomorrow, my weekly rankings will be there. And then every Tuesday, my waiver wire article goes live to tell you exactly how much fab I'm bidding on every player on waivers. As always, if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm